This week on the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn, Hoffmann, and Eric Johnson, we're talking all about luxury. You know, a lot of agents are looking to scale up their business, and one of the easy ways to do that is by selling things at a higher price point. It means that you don't have to sell as many to make as much money. And so a lot of people do think of going to luxury. Well, today we're going to talk about all things luxury to see how you can get involved in this type of real estate. This week on the Business of Real Estate. Okay, so Lynn, it's a good thing we have you because you are our luxury manager. But as you know, there's two things. One is there's those people who love luxury, live the luxury lifestyle, want to sell. And I don't know if it has anything to do with Selling Sunset or any of those other shows. But we also have the people that, they've made good money and they want to scale up their business. And it's one of two things. You either sell a lot more homes or you sell homes that have a higher price point. But I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that there are some slight differences between selling resale homes versus luxury homes. So let's talk about it. You're a luxury expert. Where do we start here?
Wow, there's a lot of places to start. Selling luxury it takes time, and it can happen organically. I think if you're paying attention to your client and your client base all throughout your career, that base is going to change as people get older and they move to the next house and the next house, and their friends and sphere of influence changes. So that can happen organically as well. If you really decide you want to set out just to sell luxury, it's going to take you a while, and there are definitely some things that need to be tackled. Particularly mindset is a big one. I think I found that starting this in 2017, when I started this at this brokerage, the biggest difficulty was people didn't know how to deal with high net worth individuals. They didn't feel like they belonged there. They didn't live in that lifestyle. They didn't drive those kind of cars or have a plane or have a yacht and things like that. So they felt unauthentic, and therefore were reluctant to get involved and make relationships with people that had a high net worth. I will tell you this, that people that have high net worth, they still need an active advocate in real estate, and they still need somebody they can trust. So your goal will be to start to figure out how you can get more of those people into your sphere, and then also bring your current clients up that curve.
And I think, I look back at my childhood and some family friends, and we definitely weren't in the luxury lifestyle, but we had friends that would be living in what we would consider a luxury home. And so it's almost like the millionaire next door. Not every luxury homeowner is driving the Bentley or the Rolls Royce. They may be successful business people. They could be in the trades. They're wearing jeans and work boots. So I think that's, one of the things is that, I must have to drive this type of car. And I remember you and I having a conversation one time about, no, your car must be clean. You must have, but you don't have to be driving that high-end car.
Well, I think there's only one time in my broker manager position, that I actually had a client call and say that the agent's car in the driveway was not acceptable to be in the driveway. So there is some of that does go on. But no, they don't have to drive a super expensive car, although it is really nice if it's clean with no rust and they don't have any logos or stickers on them. Luxury is a very low-key thing. Luxury is about an experience. Luxury is not just about the price point, as I tell people all the time. So all those small nuances are luxury. A person doesn't have to dress a certain way to have luxury. Yep. I was at an open house not too long ago where the owner of the $7+ million home was fixing his elevator, right? So you have to be very careful that you don't stereotype people.
Yes.
But you yourself, your first impressions are very, very important when you're starting to talk to these people. Mm-hmm. You should be dressed properly and be prepared for an interview at any moment. You should speak properly. You should have decent language when you're talking, decent behavior, and a clean car, and look the part. At least be ready to have those engagements.
Yeah, because I mean, we see. I know I see in some of my offices, I'll have agents come in, they've got the shorts, the flip-flops, and I'm like, okay, they're definitely not selling
So
luxury.
they're not ready for that phone call.
No.
So one of the things that I found in the offices that I managed, a couple of them, the gentlemen are usually in with a suit on or a sports jacket. The ladies are dressed up. And I think that makes them ready when that phone call comes in. And you don't know when the phone call's coming in. And it's, can you come and see my house, or can we have a coffee? I need to talk to you. Whatever that is, you're not ready. Plus, your mindset in the flip-flops and shorts is not about business.
Yes.
Your mindset's on vacation. And you and I have talked about that many, many times on other things. So all these same things apply. You turn up for work, ready to work, and be ready for a phone call that you just might get. So that's very, very important.
Yeah.
And everything is an interview. Every chat, every conversation, every phone call is an interview to see if you're the person that they would like to work with. And you don't have to live in a multi-million-dollar house. You just have to know what you're talking about and convey that to the people you're speaking to.
And I remember a conversation we had when I first joined, and I was learning a little bit more on your side of things, and we were talking about the difference between for sale and marketed by.
Yes.
Right? And that probably goes back to that mindset of, and I think you brought up, is everybody's different, so we need to read our clients and understand their expectations. But there is, for some people, for some clients, there is a difference between having something that says for sale, right? That traditional for sale sign just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah. I mean, the attitude that it's for sale and the sign that says for sale isn't really going to cut it, because what you've got to do with these higher end homes is you actually are looking for the perfect buyer for that home. And so you've got to go where that perfect buyer for that home might be. If it's got a 6-car garage, you know where you're going. You're going after the guy that collects or the woman that collects cars. You need to market to that audience so you bring in the right buyer. And this is a very, very big responsibility on the selling agent's part to find out what the features of this home are, where the buyers would be for it. Help them make that next move, because you're not just selling their house, you're moving them to a new lifestyle, you're moving them to a new situation, and you want to garner the most amount of money for them, obviously, as you can, and make it smooth. So you're not selling the house, you're marketing it, and you're actively looking for the people that belong in that house. That's the trick. I mean, you can have a house on the market for sale and a sale sign up, and tons of people come through. But it isn't until that right buyer comes through that it happens quickly. When the right buyer hits it, then it's that. So you're very, very right. It's marketed to, you're looking for the lifestyle of the house, the lifestyle of the buyer that might buy that house. And you also need to listen to the people that live in it, what their reason was for living there, what they liked the most about it, and how it enhanced their family and what it did for them.
Now, I know in my mind, I look at, when I think about luxury and the typical, maybe there's not a typical homeowner in luxury, but they lead busy lives. So to me, they're not out looking, going to open houses like, typical for sale, a resale home. So to me, I would think that one of the important parts would be networking with other agents and understanding like who has those connections. Because I may not have those connections, but like you said, it's a unique person that's gonna buy this home. So the more you can network with other, luxury agents and understanding, hey, do you have somebody that might find this? Like, to me, that would be a big part of selling in luxury, is networking with all the other luxury agents.
There's two parts to that, but absolutely yes. You want to start visiting open houses of luxury homes, and you also start to need to collect data on what homes are out there and what those lifestyles of those homes are like. then figure out what the lifestyle of the home you're about to list is all about, and connecting with those agents saying, hey, do you know anybody that wants an infinity pool on the bay? Or do you know anybody that wants a mini golf course in the backyard? Do you know anybody that wants a 6-car? And you need to start categorizing all these homes that you've seen and you know about, and learn more about them, and then put them in your back pocket and go after the people that have that kind of lifestyle. But definitely you need to work very closely. I'm going to suggest something here is treat your fellow realtors that live in this luxury space world like a client. Make great relationships with them. Thank them. Send them something if they give you a lead or give you some help. But it's a very close-knit community, that community. There's, we've been very lucky since 2017. We've now sold properties that are over $20 million. We've sold properties everywhere between $3 million and the $20 million. And so the agents in our sphere are building up relationships with each other.
Yeah.
And they have a VIP list of those people that they bring to their events, so that that property is getting in front of the right people.
Yes. Yeah. Now, knowing that, sometimes these people lead busy lives, the clients, and I remember reading, Josh Altman's book and talking about some of the things he went through, and there's a number of people, especially high wealth, that they may want that exclusive because they don't want to sign on their property, right?
Yeah, we got happens all
because
the time.
because
Happens all the time.
especially in business, you don't want people will start conjecturing, hey, what's going on? Rumors start going, so they go, no, we want this, sell this sort of quietly. Let's talk a little bit about that and the challenges, because when we look at, we have a restricted number of buyers compared to a typical resale home. And now we can't even advertise this because there are rules now that once we advertise it, then it's got to go live. So we can't do any advertising out there. We can't have a sign. So let's talk about how do we do an exclusive on a luxury home?
So you almost answered your own question there a little bit, but I'm just going to go backwards on something for a second.
Sure.
One of the great things about people that have a high net worth is they're typically more educated, have a healthier background. They understand the value of knowledge. So those folks are less likely to do the commissionectomy on you at the end of the day. They understand what you're worth, and as long as you can show them your value and your worth, you're not going to have a problem with that. It does take longer to sell, so be prepared that you're going to have more resources to help you get through those times. I mean, some of our agents are carrying 30 luxury listings, and with everything that takes, that takes a lot of deep pockets to do that. So about the exclusive part, you're never going to get somebody with a $20 million house to let you have it all over MLS. It's not going to happen. Okay, they're very private. They're going to make sure that agent is there for the showings. They're going to make sure that sometimes they even change their name on the ownership or have their lawyer's name put on the ownership because they don't want even anybody to know it's for sale or sold when it goes through Geo Warehouse or goes through the registry for title and deeds. So they're very, very, very private. Talking them out of that is quite difficult. So maybe don't even try. So what we have created, and there's some other things you can do with this, is to have in your website a spot that is for exclusive listings. And in that location for exclusive listings, people have to sign into it, give their name, give their address, give their phone number, and then once they log in, they can then view your exclusive listings. Now on our websites, a lot of our agents thought that they would, take a cheaper way out, I guess, and not put photos and floor plans and everything in on an exclusive listing. But now you need to. So you're going to treat that exclusive listing just the same way as you would with a full-blown MLS with all those things, but it's going to be loaded into the exclusive portion of the website or their website with one-to-one access, okay, so that they can go in there. The owners of the property still may want to have some restrictions on what's said there. Sometimes they don't want to have the street address or number. You're going to have to get used to that part. So there is where I say you almost answered your own question. That relationship you make with all those other agents that live in this space, that continually year after year sell these kinds of properties, becomes absolutely critical. It's also where brokerage to brokerage it becomes critical, that you can have these private portals that you can send off to another brokerage to show their luxury agents what you have.
Yep.
So it's not that you can't do it, you just have to do it in the proper way, and it's worked. It's working. Okay? So it's not the same marketing that you would do for the other ones on MLS.
Oh, for sure. And I was going to go there next because, and you used the word deep pockets. And I know, to me, I look at it and go, if I went shopping for cars, let's take this away from real estate for a moment, and I go shopping for cars. Not so much now, but a few years ago, you'd go in and you'd look at the brochures. And it was interesting to look at the difference between, say, a Ford or a Chevrolet vehicle brochure versus a luxury brochure. And it was different type of photos. It was very much a lifestyle.
Yes.
All the lifestyle magazines just have a different look and feel about it. And so I know that even when I'm coaching agents, it is about, you want to look at that when you're looking at your materials. Does it have that luxury feel or look to it? It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money for some of these things, but you may want to spend a little bit more money so that it's that nice thicker stock, it's a nicer feel. And I typically find that even most agents, luxury agents, I look at their business cards and they're typically very thick. They have a nice matte, soft finish to it. It just speaks luxury versus a traditional, like regular business card. So, there is a little bit more money that you do have to spend.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And your materials you want to be a little bit higher end.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm also going to suggest something else too. I'm a big believer in that you shouldn't show the difference between the Ford and the Bentley. That all your materials,
No, for sure.
all your materials should be of a certain quality. You may not print as many pages or do as much stuff, but I think they all need to be a similar quality, because how do you know the person that you're talking to about listing their house who's a $2 million house, which is not unusual these days. It's pretty normal in the areas.
In our area, yeah.
Areas. Don't have a friend that has a $10 million house they want to send, and it's going to show that friend the materials that you left. So again, you want to make sure that you're always keeping your standards up yourself. But that's not where I was talking about the deep pockets. That's part of it.
Yep.
Pictures. I mean, used to be that a drone was an extra, but now it's a requirement. Lifestyle videos become a requirement. There's just so much more. So those costs are greater. Usually bigger houses, bigger square footage, bigger photo shoots, bigger everything. So it goes more. It's the carrying of that listing 4 months, 6 months, 7 months, sometimes a year. Staging it.
That's where it's going to go.
It.
Yes.
Staging it. Being ready at any moment for you or your team members to go over there to be at a listing presentation, or not a listing presentation, at a showing, right? So there's a lot of costs involved in that, a lot of time. And that's where, if you're carrying 30 listings, right, that's a lot of money tied up. So I respectfully think that everybody should have a little bit of a mixed bag of properties. Although our luxury people do tend to spend more time in the luxury sphere than out of it. But there is nothing wrong with having some 1 million, some smaller properties that they're working on. Because you want to work that client up that curve and show them what you do for them at that price point is still going to be significantly better than what the average person is going to spend on those.
Okay. I mean, we talked a little bit about, the carrying it a little bit longer. We talked about the mindset. What's something that we haven't talked about that you think we should know about luxury? And even for those agents that are looking to get into luxury. So, I mean, let's talk about somebody who wants to start in luxury, who's been selling for a little while. What's that change? Like, what do you suggest they change first?
Probably their appearance and the way they talk and their education. They need to stay up on current affairs, on current things, current trends, art, just all sorts of finer arts. They need to know things about that and just keep themselves current on the way they dress and the way they interact with people. I think one of the things that is most significant is people need to have more humility when they're working with people. I don't think people of high net worth like to be sold. They don't like people pushing a sale on them. They have a better understanding of that process themselves, and they're not really open to that. So there's got to be some changes in that, in your personality and how you deal with people. The other thing would be to do your research. Research on the latest trends on hardwood flooring, on different kinds of stone, different kinds of wood, different kinds of gardening techniques and landscaping. Just so much more. Know some of your artwork as well. Know when you're walking in a home if you're looking at a $100,000 painting or something that just came out of HomeSense. And believe me, some people don't know the difference. So you need to understand some of the finer things, and that is all about research, and that is all about checking into what are the best appliances, the highest brands of appliances, how they work, and just typically what all those things are. Just get more knowledgeable on that. But again, to me, it's all about your mindset, that you're willing to work with these people, and you don't have to come across too brash. I feel luxury is a very understated thing. Mm-hmm. And I feel that if you ask somebody that's a multimillionaire or a very high net worth person, they're not going to call their boat a yacht. They're going to call it a boat. They just tend to be a little bit more down to earth. Maybe some of the people that are newer to being rich, they might be a little bit more flamboyant.
So
there's something you might want to look at. There's old money and there's new money. Okay, and those are things you'll figure out pretty darn fast. The guy that's fixing his old elevator, you got to know he's old money, and he's not as impressed by all those other things.
Yep.
So, got to do a lot of research and a lot of homework on those products. Yeah, and there's lots of websites out there to do that.
Okay.
So just get more knowledgeable on all things that have to do with that.
Yeah, and it makes sense because if you go in and go and surprise, oh my God, what is that? And like, have you ever sold? So the client would look and go, have you ever sold a luxury home? Like, I want somebody who's been here, done that.
Not acting like it's the first time they've seen something like that. So.
And I know it's funny because I was talking to, our next episode will be in talking commercial. I was talking to one of our commercial guys, and he was saying about the fact that he gets a lot of his clients saying, have you owned commercial? Like, do you know? Because they want to know that he understands and has been in it. Yeah. And it's not just, oh, you learned something from a book, now you're doing it. Right. They want to know you understand the lifestyle
of the people.
Right? Like what you're saying is you can appreciate the artwork. You don't have to own it or anything like that, but you understand it.
But you can't go in with your jaw on the floor pointing at the, the chandelier going, oh my God. You need to understand. But when you said that, it really triggered something. Please understand that every house you go in has ears and eyes.
Yes.
Ears and eyes on all things. So if you go in and you see a glass chandelier that looks like Methuselah's hair and it's a good 12 feet in size, both length and width, please don't say something. Just, unless it's, oh, I really appreciate the glass work and this is absolutely gorgeous. That's fine. But don't go in and go, oh my God, it looks like somebody threw up on the chandelier. Because they're going to hear that, and that's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah.
So always remember those things. Some of our open houses, VIP open houses, cell phones are not allowed in the house. They're just not. They're put in a baggie at the door, and someone handles them. And that's another thing. You're always going to have to make sure if you're dealing with a house like that you have several people that will come and help you host VIP open houses, because it's very important for security and safety. Also know a little bit about your wines, know about how wine should be stored, where it should be stored, the right way to store it. There are a lot of safe houses in a home as well. Make sure you've discussed all those things with the homeowner. Don't be taking pictures of the safe house and then posting it even in the exclusive pictures, because that'll get you in a world of trouble too. Just a lot of stuff to learn and to feel comfortable with. So when you walk into a space like that, you understand what you're looking at, if that makes sense to everybody. You really just need to educate yourself on all the finer things in life, even to purses and clothes and men's watches and all sorts of stuff. Know what you're looking at. Pick up on the cues.
Interesting. And, you reminded me of having a conversation with a couple agents. I remember they had this one listing. One of our agents now has that listing. And I remember hearing stories about, this is somebody who's from another country, somewhat royalty in their country, but their property has security cameras all over the place. To your point is that high wealth typically means there's a little bit more security. As you said, there's cameras everywhere. Be careful what you're saying, what you're doing. Let's talk a little bit about NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, because there'll be a lot of them that, like you said, cell phones, stay outside, in a bag somewhere, NDAs, you can't talk about these things. This is all part of luxury, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the other thing that's very, very common is for the seller to request that any buyers, even before they show the property, supply a letter from a bank and with their assets, what they have in cash, what they have in, it's just a thing. And it's perfectly acceptable at that price point. So don't be offended. Don't let your buyer get offended. It's just part of doing business is that they want to know. I mean,
they don't want to let every Tom, Dick, and Harry come in.
No. And I had that argument with Korea, with the Canadian Real Estate Board, because they said that there shouldn't be exclusives, that everybody should be on MLS. And I'm like, no, that's not the case at all. If I have a $7 to $10 million house, I don't want every looky-loo and buyer that wants to go see a house come through that house. That is not going to happen. So these are the workarounds that we've done, doing an exclusive portal for these properties, staying closely connected to other brokerages out of our territory that have full service, full luxury agents. And I just recently came back from Who's Who of Luxury in South Carolina. And the other thing that's very, very common is talk to for the seller to request that any buyers, even before they show the property, buy from us, supply a letter from the bank. Refer down there. So and it's with their assets, it's still what they have in cash. You really network and lean into those people. It's just a thing, and it's perfectly acceptable at that price point. So don't be offended. Don't let your buyer get offended. It's one just part of doing business is that they want to know. Newsletter that we wrote. I mean,
they don't want to let every Tom, Dick, and Harry come in.
No, and I had that argument with Korea, with the Canadian Real Estate Board, because they said that there shouldn't be exclusives, that everybody should be on MLS, and I'm like, no, that's not the case at all. If I have a $7 to $10 million house, I don't want every looky-loo and buyer that wants to go see a house come through that house. That is not going to happen. So these are the workarounds that we've real estate professional, that they know what they're doing. So keep self-improving, and that part is listening to different speakers. It's also talking to people that have similar problems, similar types of clients, how they've dealt with it in the past. I spoke to one agent there. Well, his last big sale was $88 million. He did have one of the highest in the States, which was $140 million. And it's really interesting hearing what his challenges were and how they got those properties sold. Because at the end of the day, it's the same issues, just on a bigger scale with more to lose or win, right? So self-improvement is important. I think everybody should be improving what they do. And it's the little things.
It's so funny you bring that up, because literally yesterday I remember seeing this video on social media, and it was these two younger kids asking this coach and saying, how important are marks in school? And he said, let me put it this way. He said, school's about learning. And people seem to think that when school is done, you stop learning. You got to keep learning. And he said, if you look at the ultra successful people in the world, he says, the majority of people, they have TVs in every room of their house, and they have really no books. These people have books. They have libraries. They are all about, because knowledge. For them, they understand what's going to make them money and what's going to make them successsul. And watching TV and scrolling social media, doesn't. And of course, I just put myself in that. I was scrolling social media. So I got some work to do, self-improvement. That is huge, though, that those people are not wasting their time doing these things. They are focused
that don't improve themselves.
Yeah. Constantly improving.
And that's the thing. You just brought a good point up. If you're ever watching the news and you're listening to very important people talk about very important stuff, behind them is usually a wall of books. It's usually a wall of books on the back. And, presumably they've read them. There's so many self-improvement books. There's so many books about business. There's just so many. You should be reading those all the time and taking the courses. And I get it all the time. I've done it before. I don't need to do it again. Oh, really? Good. Well, you'll be staying where you are for the rest of your life. And that attitude that you've learned it all by the time you come out of university is wrong. You haven't. You haven't even scraped the surface. You got to keep learning about everything. And there's lots of things to learn. So if you want to do luxury and you want to be in this world, start honing in on those things. Polo matches, arts, wines, music, cars, jewelry, watches, purses, everything that you can imagine, not just about the house. Educate yourself. Educate yourself on what those things are, what they look like, the finishes in the house, why a house sells for that much money, what those special things are. And you'll do yourself a great service by continuing to learn and improve your self-worth. You know, was it Stephen Covey that said, I can't remember if it was Stephen Covey or Jim Rohn that said, if you do one thing, you'll oh, it's going to pass me. But if
how you do one thing is how you do everything?
No. If you do this, you'll make a living, but if you do this, you'll make a fortune.
Okay.
Like basically, if you invest in yourself, you make a fortune. That's where the money's to be made in investing in yourself.
Sounds
and your
more
knowledge.
like a Jim Rohn.
Might be a Jim Rohn.
Sounds
I'll
more like a Jim
have to look it up. But the gist of it is, you'll make a living, fine. But if you want to make a fortune, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And do more for yourself to improve yourself all the time. Don't say, I'm here and I'm done.
Yeah. And, you know, the one thing I would encourage you, if you are looking to get into luxury, is, you know, as Lynn said, is getting in and looking at, you know, the appliances and stuff like that. But look at what value, what message are they sending? Because I'm going to say this from a marketing standpoint. I remember in my sales training is that if you don't believe in the value of a product, so if I go out and I say, well, I can get this vehicle for $60,000 and why, like $200,000, who would ever pay $200,000 for a car? But those people understand the value it brings. Mm-hmm. And so there's that mindset of, you know, understanding that value. And I would say this to you is that you have to show that value. Yeah. Okay, if you want to be that luxury agent, you know, these people are looking at you going, is there value here? So it's even more critical to know your value proposition and what you bring to the table, because it's going to make a huge difference when you're talking to that audience.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the one thing I would say is you really want to understand the value of things and take a look at what value you are bringing to this whole transaction.
Yeah. And you have to show them your vision. You have to explain to them what your vision for marketing their property is. The vision, the strategy, the plan, and then the actions that are going to get it there. If you can show them a comprehensive plan, not just flying by the seat of your pants, arriving and thinking you're sticking a sign in it on, that's not going to cut it on this one. When you said something there sort of triggered, while in Charleston, South Carolina, which is a very historic place, I visited a couple of homes that were from the 1700s, and little interesting things. The families there always wanted to show what their worth was, to show their wealth in some way, but it was still very understated. It was in the crown moldings. It was in the gold edging and trim. One house just had one table, and all its purpose was to put the silver teapot on. That was a big deal back then because that showed their wealth. That showed everybody their status. And believe me, that nothing has changed much. You know, when you're saying about driving the car of this price or this price, it's quiet, it's understated, but it still shows status.
Yes.
It's still showing the person's status. It says they've done well, they've been successful. They may not be screaming it out loud with the lime green Lamborghini that I saw outside the hotel, but there, you know, there's an understated wealth there, and everybody understands that they've done well. And you need to start behaving in the same way. You need to have an understated feeling about yourself, but be confident, know your worth, and know that you're going to help these people with a good strategy to move and get them to the new life that they need to embark upon. I think if you can do that, you'll be very successful. and listen more, talk less, and listen to what they want, and then put that into your action plan for them. There's so many nuances to this thing. But first, be comfortable and be confident that you can deal with this. Because if you're not, they will sniff that out in a heartbeat.
Yep. That's true. They're willing to spend quality, and so they're looking for quality people to deal with. And so you want to make sure that, as Lynn said, having a well thought out plan. Unfortunate part is I work with a lot of agents who are typically flying by the seat of their pants. I would say 75% of agents are doing that. They don't have a true formalized plan. A lot of it is up here and it comes and goes on a daily basis, but it is having a thorough plan, and that's part of where the quality comes from. Is knowing that, okay, here's our systems, and you can then take a look at your materials and maybe develop that a little bit better. Now, instead of a presentation folder, maybe we're using a box, presented a little bit different.
Yeah.
But again, doesn't necessarily have to be, but it is those little things of quality, and then you knowing your self-worth and what you bring to the table.
That's the most important part. This article that I just wrote, I talked about that you are the presentation. You're the presentation. Your personal brand and how you execute things is you as the presentation. So, and the only way you're going to be confident and comfortable is if you've had a plan and if you've practiced your plan. And we talk about these things all the time. It is no different. The stakes are higher in this because there's more money to be made and more money to be lost. But it's the planning, the execution, the confidence that comes with doing all of those things. And not to talk too much about what I just wrote, but you guys are the gift. You are a gift. You're a gift to these people. And you need to start realizing that and behaving in such a way that is what you do for them. They're looking to you for help, and I think it's incumbent on you to do your best job and to give them all of your attention and not talk so much, but listen to them about what they want and then help them implement the vision and the plan and the actions that they need to do that.
Okay. So, just to wrap things up here, I think some of what we talked about is it's really, and what you're saying is in terms of 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them appropriately, but it's about paying attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention, listen, pick up on these cues, be confident,
But
learn.
not bragging and not
No,
ego.
no.
Leave the ego
Yeah.
somewhere outside.
Leave the ego outside.
Yes.
Be that, be confident in yourself. Have a well-structured plan. You can do this. You can get into luxury, but it is going to require a slightly different mindset than what you have for traditional resale.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you for joining us today or this week on the business of real estate. Hopefully, if you learned a little bit about doing luxury real estate, we're going to have future episodes. We're going to bring on some of luxury agents talking about what they go through on a daily basis. But if you have any questions, you would like us to do more content or have specific ideas for content, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you again for joining us here on the Business Real Estate Podcast with Lynn Hoffmann and Eric Johnson.
Thanks, sir.